Hello everyone, welcome back to Adventures in Who, your local silly gibby gabby Doctor Who podcast. I'm Martin.
I'm Tash.
And today we're here to talk about Lux. But before we get into all that, we have a couple of news things. One that we probably should have mentioned last week, which I just completely blanked on, and one that did happen this week, or this past week. Sad news that Jean Marsh passed away, who is pretty well known in film and TV, but for Doctor Who fans, she was Sarah Kingdom in the first Doctor era. She also was in another story during the first Doctor's era, and she also played Morgaine in the seventh Doctor story with a Arthurian, that's how you say that, Arthurian legend, dimension crossing kind of story. But 90 years old, very accomplished. Sad still. Another Doctor Who alumni gone, which is always sad to see. But personally, for me, I do tend to think of her as Morgaine because I've seen that story a bajillion times now. And just Sylvester McCoy and Jean Marsh having that one-to-one scene at the end of the episode, and it's very informative for New Who because it's the Doctor talking to the villain about war and what that means to you and honor and all of that stuff. So good scene. So obviously a sad loss. In terms of news that we didn't cover last week, which did get announced that week, was Graham Norton is going to be in. It doesn't take many guesses, but Graham Norton is going to be in the Eurovision Song Contest episode, Space Eurovision. Finally, Graham gets to be in Doctor Who, not invading the show as he has done previously. For anyone not in the UK, that may not be aware, or maybe you are. When Doctor Who first aired in 2005, and Rose, the very first episode, they had a weird audio issue where Graham Norton's mic went hot on a live show he was doing that was going to be airing after the broadcast, and he could have been saying anything. He was talking to like a stage manager, and it came across the show. But he was, lucky he wasn't saying anything like untoward in that moment.
Yeah.
And also later for Matt Smith, we got a little cartoon of Graham Norton running across the screen advertising a show he was going to be doing that aired afterwards as well. So he's invaded the show a couple of times, and now he gets to be in it officially, probably as a cameo of some description, because at least here in the UK, he is well known for being the commentator for Eurovision. As fun as that is, I'm still very, very nervous about that episode and what it's going to entail. And
I guess his moment, finally.
he does. It's a fun little.
Finally.
Speaking of meta, and I will be very surprised if they don't call back to that incident with his hot microphone in some way, because of how meta this whole season has been. Even though that's a joke, a small percentage of the audience will know, because most of the people watching the show were probably too young or weren't even born when Rose aired, which is just sad on itself.
You're just trying to make us feel old now.
Yes, pretty much.
Thanks.
Well, you're welcome. And we're all old. We'll all be in the grave at some point soon. Other than that, I have a hot take for you, Tash. A hot take, steaming, hot, important take. Actually, I had two things I was going to say at the top of the podcast today, but the episode today kind of took the wind out of my sails on the point I was going to make, and would have made me look like an idiot. So I'm going to put a pin in that.
Okay.
For now.
All right.
And
talk about it later.
and maybe I'll come back to it by the end of the season and see if it's still relevant or makes any goddamn sense whatsoever. So that's over there. As for my other hot take, as we've been going through this RTD2 era, kind of in the background, I've had Series 1 and Series 2 sort of playing on occasion. And I was just trying to watch them in terms of, why did this work so well versus what's happening now? What's the source that was there, and just kind of in the background thinking about it. And my hot take was, I prefer David Tennant's hair at the beginning of Series 2 to his spiky hair. I know that's going to upset some people. I know people are very passionate about his spiky hair, but I was watching it and I was like, you know what? He looks better with the floppy, like, swishy look opposed
Mhm.
to his big
Mhm.
old. I just feel like the spiky hair's trying too hard.
Mm. Yeah.
he's that's my hot take for the week, is that I prefer that early look, and I'm sure everyone will disagree with me, because every time David Tennant comes up in a conversation and his hair isn't spiky in regards to Doctor Who, everyone's like, you got his hair wrong. I remember in the 50th when he had a hair like he'd never had in
Mhm.
Doctor Who. Everyone was
Yeah.
upset.
Yeah.
And then they overcompensated with the 60th anniversary, where he had hair that went up to the fucking stratosphere, it seemed like. It was so spiky.
A lovely peacock type of
Exactly.
style. Mm,
Um,
I
yeah,
could see.
that's what I've been got going on. That's my. If you got any, how's Tash? How's Tash before we get into Lux and all that it entails?
Oh, I'm fine.
Good.
I don't have opinions about the hair
No.
either way. No.
I
I mean,
am.
I think the spiky was of the era, maybe
Hmm.
a little bit,
Maybe, yeah, it was very in at the
of, like,
time.
boy bands and stuff, yeah, but I didn't feel passionate either
Are you saying
either way, and
I'm getting passionate about the wrong things? Is that what you're saying?
no, no,
Okay.
not at all.
Okay.
I mean, it's a hairstyle.
Yeah.
I like if you like it a different way, you like it a different way.
I was just worried that a lot of my nitpicks and criticisms have revolved around costuming and now hair. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel
they
like
have just a little bit.
I'm painting myself in a
Just a little
corner.
bit. I mean, but you're also the one who is, like, put their head in the opening credit
I
scene, you
very
know?
much am. I want their
Yeah,
faces
yeah.
in the opening credits, and I
That's what you love about it.
will not hit that drum. That drum will constantly be hit. Without any further ado, then, without wasting anyone's time, let's talk about Lux, series
Okay.
15, episode 2, written
Yep,
by Russell T Davies. I don't know who directed
yep.
it. Who directed this? Hold on, I've got it here. Amanda Brocci. Amanda Brocci, I believe, is how you say that last name. So, a haunted cinema in 1952. People have
Mhm.
gone missing. The
Yep.
Doctor and Belinda show up after trying to triangulate their position to try and get back to Belinda's time. Doctor can't help himself, sees a bunch of flowers, missing people, some
Yep.
weirds going on, and wants to
Mhm.
investigate. And that is pretty much the catalyst to this
Mhm.
whole thing. What do we think? What's your initial thoughts on Lux?
You know, I didn't hate it.
Yes.
It walked a very fine line.
Hmm.
I didn't hate it. I did not hate it. Uh, I think there are a lot about this episode that I did enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it is also just around Belinda as a companion. I think helps add kind of like a serious tone to something that could have gotten really, really way too silly, kind of lost in translation, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I didn't hate it. So far I've liked these first 2 more than I liked the opening of the first season.
Oh my god, it's night and day. It's night and
You
day.
hate this one for you?
No, no,
Oh my god.
no. I
Oh
mean,
yeah. Oh god. I was
comparing
like, "Oh
this,
man."
comparing
Yes,
this to
yeah.
season or
Yeah, yeah.
series 1 last year.
Mhm.
These two
Yeah.
opening episodes it's night and day. Comparing the level of like how much more just pulling in and investing
Yeah.
they are. Like, it makes me think, what on earth were they thinking starting last year with with
I
space
mean, honestly,
babies? And
we would be in
then
a much different position
yeah, and I mean,
with this.
I didn't hate the Devil's Chord last year. I mostly liked
Yeah.
it, but that having that big,
Mhm.
let's be honest, crappy song and dance number at the end really put a bad taste at the end of
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah. Yep.
I can imagine that, because those episodes came out together last year.
Yeah.
I can imagine
Yep.
a lot of people who tuned in going, "What on earth is this?" Uh,
Mhm.
it just not this episode. Without giving too much away of what I thought about it, I felt like this is an episode where someone who doesn't know this show could watch it
Mhm.
and go, "Okay, I get it.
Yep.
I get what
Yep.
this show is." Even with all the meta breaking, fourth wall breaking stuff that it was doing,
Yep.
overall, I felt like it has a much better, like, oh, okay, I get what this whole thing is. Like, I can see what people see in it. Whereas last year, I was like, oh god.
Even and Jigsaw Monsoon was incredible, you know,
Yes, yeah,
like
yeah, for sure.
and yeah, it just felt like a bunch of discombobulation versus here we kind of have, like, already a much more prevalent
hmm
story behind the scenes that you know was gonna be important, and, like, can also just enjoy each separately as a Doctor Who adventure,
Yeah, yeah, and
which
it.
is now my guard is up even
Yeah,
more, I'm
right. I was
gonna be
about to
honest,
say.
'cause I was like, "Oh, man,
I was
if
about
you
to
let me
say.
down, stop this."
It does. I was literally about to say, like, oh, this makes me more nervous in a weird kind of way because it started
Yeah,
pretty strong, and I'm waiting. I'm just waiting for it to
yep,
like drop somewhere. The ball to be dropped very hard and firmly, and
mhm.
I'm kind of prepared for that to be the Eurovision episode. But maybe it will surprise me. I don't know.
Oh,
All right then.
yeah.
Let's go through it then. And first off, we get our pre-title sequence with everyone in the cinema having their popcorn, setting the tone and the scene, and eventually the moonlight coming in through the ceiling. And
Yes.
I thought it was slightly contrived how the moonlight bounced around the room from the spoon to the nail to the projector. I thought
Yep,
it could have just hit the light and it it could have just hit the projector and
yep,
it would have been fine. But okay, whatever.
yep.
Um, and then obviously Mr. Ring-a-Ding, or Lux, as we come to learn who it actually
Mhm.
is, comes to life, bursting out of the cinema screen. And I had right off the bat, I was like, it sold that pre-title sequence sold me more on what this story's going to be because I was fully prepared for this to be really over the top and silly and
Yeah,
another rompy kind of episode. And then
yeah,
then that pre-title sequence instantly was like, oh no, we're going creepy with this. We're
huh.
we're going
Yep,
weird and creepy with this. And his
yeah, yeah,
slight like cross-eyed as he comes further out of the screen and I was like,
yeah.
oh no, he's scary. We're playing this for scares. And I instantly
Yeah,
I was more hooked into the whole thing because of that. Like I was like,
mhm.
okay, I can get on board with creepy, scary, Pennywise-esque
Yeah.
cartoon coming to life.
I feel like it was a pretty good hook. Um, I think, like, just kind of, like, the silliness of people in the theater being like, "Is he talking to me?" You
hmm
know? Like, and immediately it was like, "Yes, you," and then was like, "Here I come," type of big monster coming out of the screen. So yeah, I think it was a really good opening.
Yeah, yeah. It's I sighed the biggest breath of relief after when that
Yep.
pre-titles happened, and I was like, okay, I feel like I might get on board with this. From there, we get
Yeah.
to a TARDIS scene with Belinda and the Doctor, just sort of picking up where we left up from last time. They can't get to the
Mhm.
24th of May, which is the air date for the penultimate episode of the
Yeah.
show, if everyone's keeping track of their dates. And we just have a little bit of a little banter, a little interchange. We get to learn a little bit more about Belinda's parents, and
Yep.
I will admit it made me slightly nervous when she mentioned that her dad sings. I was like, "Oh God, here we go. Is there gonna is there is there gonna be a sing song later on, and it's gonna be a whole thing?"
Yeah, yeah.
Um, that was just made me nervous, but mostly it was a nice little scene. Has a little bit more exposition, a little bit, and again, just like last week for me, it felt a little bit more natural than what we got last year. It felt like
Yeah.
just two people having a conversation that they would have at this time.
Yeah.
Whilst Belinda's like asking questions about things like, how are we going to get
Yep.
there? I just want to go home. Like, uh,
Yeah, yeah. I
uh,
wanna see my parents again.
I did notice, and I assume you probably would have noticed this as well. It was kind of and it happens a couple times in this episode where we get a little bit of series 5 music playing, like a little bit. I don't think it's Amy's theme specifically, but
Mhm.
it's definitely a bit of music that is associated with Amy Pond that plays a little bit
Mhm.
during this interchange. And we'll talk about that again later because we get a big motif from series 5 later on, which I'm just like, is this? I can't tell if we're being meta again here or if this is just Murray like, oh, I've got this on the books, I'll just use this. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
I don't,
let's throw this in.
I
Yeah.
don't. It's still good. It still works. Or if it's like a meta thing that they're doing, and when we get to the end of this, we'll do a little bit of theory crafting about what we might think is going on. And yeah, and then eventually they land. But before they land, how are you feeling about this? Just kind of picking up where they left off, and the Belinda Doctor of it all.
Yeah, I think it was pretty good, like, you see Belinda's face yet again being like, "Hey, I still just wanna go home," right? Like, that's clearly something
Hmm.
that she's not changed by the concept of like, oh, like it seemingly it picks off right away, which is pretty nice.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh, and like the continuation of that storyline. And I did think like when she was about to walk out and she's like, I could probably get arrested in this outfit. So I shouldn't walk out in this outfit. And like the doctor's like, well, the outfits are the best part. And they kind of have like that little part.
Hmm.
I think it's nice to see still kind of that like charisma side of the doctor and it not just be super overplayed like I feel like it was with Ruby, where it was just kind of like, oh, hold on, let me just show you this cool little thing, and not making it like some big fantastical moment. I know you probably have opinions of yet again not in the doctor's outfit at all.
I mean, I if it counts for anything, I liked this outfit a lot more. At least
Yeah.
there was some, like some. I mean, I guess it's the bow tie, and we've been programmed to think of
Mhm.
Doctor Who when you see bow ties. But
Yeah.
there was something more of an air of doctorliness about this particular outfit than what we've had a lot of the
Yeah.
time. I will say throughout
Yeah.
Judy's era so far. But it was a weird little redux of what we got in the Devil's Cord, like almost the same
Yeah.
camera movement of them moving through
Mhm.
the TARDIS and coming out in a different outfit. Which I
Yep.
guess is a purposeful callback to that. Whether that's meant to be another meta thing, this is what this show's doing to me at the moment. I don't know what's supposed to be meta and what is just like a little throwback thing. Like it's messing with my brain. It's
Yep.
I
I
actually
have an unhinged theory that I'm not gonna say on podcast, but you know my unhinged theory.
I do know your
And if it
unhinged
plays
theory.
out
So
if it plays out,
if it comes to
I'll
fruition,
tell everybody.
I can vouch for the unhinged theory because I do know what it is.
Yes, yes.
I will mention just quickly, Randomer, friend of the podcast, got in touch with us last week, and this last
Yeah.
week also mentioned, and I did think about this and I forgot to mention it last week. Belinda does call out the TARDIS before she's been told that that's what it's called. In the previous
Mhm.
episode, she says that something along the lines of, "Oh, that's your TARDIS," and she's never heard that word yet. So I'm going to be honest, and maybe slightly telling of my current faith in the
Yeah.
production. I didn't know if that was like a gaffe, like they edited it wrong. That
Yeah.
maybe the Doctor had mentioned the TARDIS somewhere earlier, and it got cut out, and that's why she knew what it was called because it had been mentioned, but that scene was no longer there, or something along those lines. Or it's a bigger
Yeah.
picture thing that Belinda does know what the TARDIS is somehow already. I couldn't tell. I honestly couldn't tell if that was meant to be there by design or if I say it was like an editing problem that they had and they just forgot and it slipped through the net. I have no idea. I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not going to put my hat on it.
No, yeah, it is worth mentioning, and I can definitely see where it could be an editing thing or it could be something intentional
Yeah.
because we saw a little bit where, like, he's kind of explaining how long he's been there
Hmm.
in 6 months and how, like, obviously the other companion, the very brief companion, Sasha, was like, "You're gonna take me to see the stars." I
Yeah.
don't so there could have been some sort of mention there that just got edited out, or it could be intentional. I don't know. After last season, I don't trust anything with getting
Yeah.
anything up for my hopes and looking into stuff.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's exactly where my brain was. It was just like I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know if this was on
Yeah.
purpose. Like a lot of the stuff that's happening, is this purposeful? I don't know anymore. I'm just going with it
Yeah.
for now
Mhm.
and enjoying the ride where I can. But yeah, they get their costume change, looking marvelous. They head out onto the street of Miami, 1952, where they notice the cinema and the missing flowers and there's some
Mhm.
strange goings on. I did have to look up Rock Hudson. I have to be honest. I didn't
Mhm.
know who Rock Hudson was, which is the film that's playing. I can tell you that the movie is a fake movie. He wasn't in a
Yep.
movie called the Harvest Bringer, which was just a way to
No.
have the Harbinger thing come
And
up later.
I fucking clocked that. I fucking clocked that. I was like, I see a word in there, and if we're back on this pantheon god stuff,
Mm-hmm. On the
clocked it,
lookout.
and I was really proud of myself.
Good.
I
Good.
wasn't even on the lookout. It was just a close up, and I was like,
You were on the lookout. That's good. But yeah, from what I understand, exactly as they say in the episode, that Rock Hudson was an actor of that time.
yeah,
Later diagnosed with HIV and died. So I assume it's someone that Russell was a fan of. But yeah, going in from there, we have something interesting is that, and you alluded to it yourself earlier, that they do actively acknowledge the fact that they're in 1950s and segregation is a thing, and
yep,
and I was curious about how they were going to handle this, if they were just going to kind of glaze over it like it's Doctor Who, we don't have to concern ourselves with that too much and we can just have fun,
mhm,
or if we're actually going to acknowledge it. I think there's room for
yeah,
both ways of doing that, but I'm kind of happy in this instance that we did call attention to it in some way, because
mhm,
I think this, other than the Beatles episode where they didn't really call attention to it at all,
mhm.
this is our first like past adventure. Am I right in that? It's no Rogue as well. Sorry, I completely and Rogue completely
Yeah,
glazed over
yeah,
it as well. Like Rogue was very fictionalized in that
yeah,
way. Um,
mhm,
but here we actually got an acknowledgement of it, and that kind of continues through this whole opening. It was good. I think it was handled pretty like delicately, but also not ignoring it. And
yep,
I did like the Doctor's kind of lines about how I've toppled worlds, and sometimes I wait for worlds to topple themselves,
yeah.
and then I just shine in the meantime. Um, which was I think was a nice way of kind of dealing with that.
So, yeah, I think as you can't really glaze over it, especially because we had the Rosa Parks episode
Yes, for sure.
with Jodie. So I think glazing over it would've been disingenuine,
Hmm.
especially since you've gone to a period piece in America, around that time. So,
Yeah.
I think it was very much like Russell T Davies' way of saying, like, "This is still something that's happening, and we're, like, setting it in a specific time and place,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to acknowledge that it's happening, but I'm not gonna give a huge lecture on this right now. There's other things that's gonna happen in this
Yeah.
episode," and I think, um, a lot of criticism of Jodie's seasons were that it felt like a lecture. I personally was okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
I know not everybody was okay with it, where I think this way was just still acknowledging it, but not making it the prime issue of the episode.
Yeah.
So I think they handled it pretty well.
Yeah.
I think I would've been more upset if they completely ignored it,
Yes. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I was happy to see that they acknowledged it and were like, "We can't do anything to change this."
It just made it all feel a little bit more real. And as I alluded to earlier about a point I was going to make today, which I've now put a pin in, um, was was
Talk about it after.
that was part of it. Like I was going to talk a little bit about how this era so far has felt so kind of high fantasy esque in a lot of
Yeah.
ways, and I felt like it was kind of missing a sense of groundedness to it, where
Mhm.
Earth feels really real, and then the Doctor's world is like a magic door to something amazing. But I have to give props to this episode where it did feel like, okay, I feel like we're in this time and place because they are bringing this stuff
Yeah,
up, and it feels
yeah.
truthful to that. Going along, we then get the Doctor and Belinda having a chat with one of the missing person's mother. Just a really lovely scene about where it sort of culminates in her seeing the TARDIS parked outside and the Doctor asking, "Does
Mhm.
that give you hope?" And
Yeah,
her saying yes. Yeah, it was just a great. This is what I mean by this being a really good episode for someone who'd never seen the show before, where they could
yeah.
instantly kind of get it. Like you can, because you see it through that character's eyes. It instantly sums up who the Doctor is, and it's great for Belinda as well, who's kind of cynical and like
I have to
slightly like,
watch this.
do I trust this guy? I don't know. I'm sort of caught up in
Yeah,
this whole situation,
yeah.
and it's great to, and that happens a few times in this episode where she sees the Doctor from
Mhm,
someone else's point of view, and she starts
mhm.
to just get him a little bit more. And yeah, I just thought that scene was really just really nice, and it, kind of what I was criticizing a little bit last week. It feels like there's lots of scene in this where it kind of breathes a lot more. Like we're just able to
Mhm.
sit in the conversations a little bit more and let them happen. So yeah, I just really liked that moment, and it was great for Shooty as well. It was a great Doctor moment for Shooty to sort of be the hero version, but like the sort of downplayed, subtle version
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah, I liked it, especially because you see her hesitation. She's like, "I wanna go home." Like, "We can go now,
Hmm.
right? We're gonna get into the spaceship and go now. We're going now," where, like, the Doctor's body blocking,
Hmm.
essentially, the entrance to the TARDIS, and then she's just like, "We're leaving," right? You know, like, I think Belinda as a companion is really adding depth, which is part of the companion's role, right?
Yes,
It's
yeah,
adding seriousness to it versus just, like, being best friends. I'm not gonna get too much into it because I know I can ramble forever, but
yeah.
I think it was really nice for, like, Belinda to actually have to sit down and, like, the Doctor to be like, "This is what I do, I help people," you know, and kind of be in that situation of, like, we could risk a cup of coffee,
Hmm.
um, and kind of pushing Belinda a little bit
Yeah, just
to
like
go
the
in there and, like, kinda seeing who the Doctor is by nature,
yeah.
and, like, yeah.
Just like
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
we're in 1952. Come on. Whenever you're going to be here again, let's just go have the
Mhm.
coffee and let me have a look at the haunted cinema. Come on, it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, yeah, and Belinda's like, "You literally just said that that was trained up to keep a monster in."
Yeah.
Like, "You wanna explore this?"
Do
You
you
know?
do you have
I
any
enjoyed it.
feelings towards the Doctor being describing himself as Velma in the Scooby Doo gang and calling Belinda Fred?
Oh, well, I feel like it's, like, even a double whammy because there is the new era of the Velma spinoff
Yes,
that
right.
happened on HBO Max, which is very much about, like, Velma being queer and all this other stuff, so I get what he's saying.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't pay too much mind to it though, because I was like, I can't get
Right.
roped up into a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
already meta situation, but I felt like it was very, like, playful of yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's accurate. Like Velma's the one. Like traditionally in Scooby Doo, Velma is the one who is the smart one who actually does the investigating and figures stuff out.
Mhm.
Like that's traditionally how it
Yeah.
goes. And it's interesting that we had last week a 1950s B movie planet, effectively, and then we jumped to an episode set in the 1950s with cinema. You are right. I did like that whole exchange where she's like, "We can go now, right? We're leaving now." What? I should probably set up
Oh, what did I do?
that the Doctor's trying to triangulate where they are so they can try and hook themselves back to May 24th and pull themselves in. That's the setup
Yeah,
to our current plot line, like how he's going to try and get back to her time and place. And I
yeah,
assume we're going to be jumping around him trying to do that and probably have some diversions along the way as he's trying to get that to work. Breaking into the cinema, that creepy tone is just setting up this weird, creepy tone that something's wrong. We know there's a caretaker in here, and everyone went missing, and just them sort of entering the space where we spend the majority of the episode, because the episode is basically a bottle episode. We're in one location
yeah.
the entire time, which I also didn't expect. I've got to be honest. I thought we'd be sort of not exploring 1950s Americana, um,
Mhm.
but I thought we would be going to other places around the cinema and as the cartoon
Yeah.
escapes and stuff. But no, we're there pretty much the whole time.
Which I think, like, even looking back at, like, last season, right, like, one of my favorite episodes was being stuck on the landmine and being stuck in that situation,
Hmm.
which is where we see Mundy. So I think Belinda's hesitation of, like, not being awestruck and wanting to completely explore and, like, kind of being stuck in there is a really good way of writing it
Yeah.
in terms of, like, it's really gonna rely on the acting here,
Hmm.
not just a bunch of fancy effects and
Which
constant moving that you get whiplash and don't even have a moment to, like,
yeah.
process.
Yeah,
So
no, you're right. Like it's again exactly what I was talking about last week in terms of the
mhm,
this era on the bigger scale is that it's felt like it's had this thing where it feels the need to be very flashy and big a lot of the time. Whereas I was like, oh, we're actually doing exactly what I was criticizing last week by having a story that is very domesticated and small, but you know if they mess this up, it could have unforeseen bigger consequences, which could be universe threatening. But
Mhm.
the actual story is contained, and it's
Mhm.
ultimately about trying to keep it contained until we know what's going on.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so it's almost as
The
if
villain
that
itself is contained.
yeah, and it's almost as if they were in my head last week and they're like, "Oh, just you wait, we've got we've got something for you.
We'll
Don't
let
you
them
worry."
to breathe. Yeah, yeah.
um, but yeah, then we sort of hear the tippy tapping. It's interesting that you bring up
Mhm.
the effects because as Mr. Ringerding is revealed,
Mhm.
it's pretty well done. Like I actively
Mhm.
believe that this 2D cartoon is in the space
There.
with them. Like I
Yeah,
thought it might be a bit jarring when the trailers and stuff, but actually seeing them
yeah.
interact and indeed Mr. Ringerding interacting with the environment, it was actually pretty good. So
Yeah.
like I was sold on this being an actual creature. So yeah, how did you feel about Ringerding?
Yeah, I definitely felt like he was a threat. Super interesting in the way that like Belinda starts going into the characteristics of like, but you have a pig nose. I'm like, it's a cartoon, Belinda. It's a cartoon, you know.
Yeah.
Belinda's just like you can't like kind of caught up in that moment, which I don't know if they're trying to kind of like make a play that Belinda's Fred in that moment of
Mm.
like,
Just pointing out the obvious.
yeah, yeah. uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I like the concept of Mr. Ringdinger. I don't know if you saw this comparison or thought about it, but I was like, where have there been moments where like cartoons are, especially in that era, are famously trying to like break the fourth wall within the cartoon itself? And
Hmm.
a comparison I came across was Daffy Duck
Hmm.
trying. There is a cartoon series where he's constantly fighting against his writer to kind of like break out and break free, and people loved that. So yeah, I feel like it was very like that would be something that was airing at that time.
Yeah.
Kind of play piece towards it, and I thought the reveal was really good.
Yeah.
The minute he was like kept saying, "Don't make me laugh," and I was
Mm.
like, "I swear to God, if
Right.
this laugh is what I think it's going to be," and it was, and I was like,
Can you do it?
"Called it."
Can you give us?
No,
Damn! I
no,
thought I saw you move towards the microphone like you were going to go for it, and then just went. No,
nope.
no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
We don't need that in the universe more than out there.
um,
But no, I thought it was like it was very like I think all of this was very believable in an unbelievable
at,
kind of
at the same
world
time, but
and
yeah,
realm.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
exactly what I was talking about. Like that I think having the beginning of the episode set up the environment and the time period and everything so in such a grounded way, when Mr.
mhm,
Ringerding appears, you're already sold into the world. So it's like, oh, okay, this can happen. This is the magical, the weird, the sci-fi part of all of this
yeah,
coming out, and it is very on the nose because we're doing all this fourth wall breaking, having
yeah,
the cartoon literally coming out of the fourth wall. So I mean, we'll talk about that a little bit at the end when with Mr. Ringerding's fate, if we feel like there's going to be any kind of repercussions to how he is dealt with by the end of the episode. Just a strong villain. I do have some questions that and things about because once it's revealed that Mr. Ringding is actually Lux, the god of light, I do have some questions about the gods and the pantheon and how they work because they bring up a point here, and I was like,
yep,
does that go for all of them? Do they all have to obey these same rules? But we'll get to that in a moment. Yeah, we have the harbinger
yeah,
moment, the ha 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 ha
yep,
ha ha, and then we meet our caretaker,
yep,
who I thought was really good in this as well. Like it's when you're in the bottle episode with the main cast and you're coming in as the guest performer, and obviously Alan Cummings
yeah,
there as well, but he's a voice. But when you're the one who's also got to hold up the episode along with the cast who everyone's here to see, it
mhm.
can be a slightly thankless task. to
Yeah, like yeah, yeah,
but I thought he did a good job sort of emoting the desperate situation he's in and both trying to
yeah,
keep Lux trapped but also falling into this thing that Lux has given him his partner back to him and
yeah,
the sort of duality of all of that. So I did think the actor
yeah.
did a really good job of just again selling the peril and the danger of the situation that they're in. And I
Mhm.
think it has to be said that I'm glad that Russell recognized that. I think Russell must
Yeah,
have gone like, okay, I'm bringing a cartoon to life, and I need it to be scary and feel like a threat. So I need to
yeah,
write in this stuff where you see this
make
thing
mistakes there.
manipulating people and
Yeah.
being scary and all of that stuff.
Yeah, I think, like, it's I think anything that shows the Doctor versus humans and what humanity is, and I don't say versus, like, in a battle against each other, I just mean a comparison
Yeah, the differences.
of,
Yeah.
like, humanity versus this is a alien,
Hmm.
which I think we struggled not having that a lot last season.
Hmm.
Um, and, like, that's a really human thing, right? Humans are complex, and knowing that they're doing good while also doing bad is
Hmm.
sometimes the reality of it, and you can understand from this person's perspective. And I think also, like, playing it to get them trapped in the song is yet applying, like, another type of rule. Like, he's gonna have to sing out the song,
Yeah.
to, like, escape. Yeah, there are certain rules that are being set in place, which is super interesting. And I don't know if it's just because the concept of a insane, unlimited God is
Well, with
too much to put
with
into a box.
yeah, with the I assume with the he has to sing out the musical um
Yeah,
is because he's directly attached to the film still in some way. Hence, when we get to the end and
yeah,
his end goal being trying to reform himself into something physical. Um,
yeah, fair enough.
I assume it's that's got something to do with that. Like he's just attached to it, so he has to conform to it in some way, which we also kind of get to see once he finds perspective, as he says, and what size he should be in this form,
Yeah,
and he's struggling to get up the stairs. Um,
yeah, yeah.
was very nice, but uh, also on the point of the projectionist character, I again just an example of being able to breathe in the scene a little bit. We get all this extra stuff of actually seeing Mr. Ringading give him his
Mhm.
partner and them
Yeah,
dancing and just it's just nice. It's just nice when we get to actually let things exist. Not just
yeah,
come on,
yeah,
we gotta run past this.
yeah.
We're on the clock here, folks. We gotta get to the end of this thing.
Mhm.
It's just nice that we get to just exist in it for a bit. So yeah, we get eventually get to the confrontation when he catches up to them and the doctor's prying for information, trying to like, hey, you have to tell me how to stop you because you're honor bound to do so. And I had questions about this because
Mhm.
this seems to be bouncing off the rules of the toy maker, where the toy maker
Mhm.
always played a fair game, and that's the rules of the toy maker. Like, if he plays a
Yeah.
game with you, he has to abide by the same rules that you do. And I don't, and they seem to be sort of riffing off the same thing here with Lux and the Doctor saying, hey, you have to tell me
Mhm.
how to stop you. That's how this works. And I was like, when has that ever been? Has that always been the case? I don't remember you telling Maestro, "Hey, you have to tell me how to stop you." Like you're honor bound to tell me
Yeah,
that. And I definitely don't remember him going to Sutek. Hey, you big naughty dog. What are you up to? You gotta tell me what
yeah,
you're up to and tell me how to
yeah,
stop it. Like I just felt that came out.
yeah,
It felt like a bit of a okay. We need to come up with a convenient way how to
yeah,
stop this, and we need to layer and seed in a clue somehow to get to that end point. So, okay, it's just I guess it's just a rule now that the gods have to they're honor bound to give some kind of riddle or clue or something about
yeah.
themselves. Yeah, did that signpost to you at all when they were having that confrontation or
I feel like they're calling attention to, like, the light aspect of it.
right?
But I also, like, I don't even know if it's an issue. So we know Maestro came from the toy maker in essence. So I'm
Uh,
gonna guess in here the doctor's like, "I've seen one of the kids before.
right.
This is another kid of the toy maker directly that I've not come before yet."
I guess because
Maybe that's why his brain went there?
he has the laugh. So that's why
Yeah.
he's saying that you're like directly related. You're not just another god. You are directly related to the toy maker in some way. Um,
Yeah,
I
because you can't do
guess.
it with Sutek because we know of Sutek,
Hmm.
where I feel like Maestro and Lux, like they're being introduced to us in Russell T Davies' writing.
Hmm.
So I don't know if it was just kind of one of those like, no, you have to tell me because you're like has learned from Maestro and the toy maker, and it just automatically made a correspondence to, oh well, this has to be something else related to
Mm.
the toy maker and go abide by the same rules. But it did feel really, like, quick, and
Mm.
I don't know if it was also the doctor partly just being like, "Well, fuck, might take a guess here, see if it works out and pans out for
Maybe
us," and it does.
I
You
can't go
know,
along with
like,
that. I'm just winging
I
this.
think we can yeah, I think we can, like, get into the rules of this. I think if we come across another one yeah, I don't know if Russell T Davies dug himself a hole there because he
Yeah, a
couldn't do
little
it
bit.
with Sutekh because Sutekh already existed.
Yes. I mean,
Uh,
I'm
so yeah.
I'm willing to go along with, like, because of the laugh, which indicates that Lux is meant to be directly related to Toymaker, because Maestro also had that laugh signature, which was it a child? It was a child, yeah. And I
Yeah.
guess Maestro did give hints and clues about the chord would seal Maestro away if you play the right chord.
Yeah.
So he's kind of riffing off of that thing,
Yeah.
that tangent. I guess again,
Yeah.
there's a way you can get there. I just thought I think I just jumped to Sutek and I was like, I don't remember the doctor like asking asking Sutek,
Yeah.
how do I stop you again? How do I do that? Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
attach a lead to you. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Um, but no, it was I did just wonder. It's not a criticism. I'm just wondering what the bigger picture of that is, and how that may come into play later down the line if we have more pantheon gods who are related to the toy maker directly, and perhaps Mrs. Flood, who I assume we are going to get a reveal on towards the end of this. From there, we get the moment which is either going to drive everyone mad and insane, and they're either going to, I feel like it's going to be a Marmite situation. This whole segment is either people are going to hate this or they're going to be really into it. So the Doctor and Belinda get trapped in the film, just like all the other 15 missing people who have been revealed to be trapped in film cells and
Yep.
hanging on the wall. And then from there, we get to see it from their point of view, where at first they are turned into cartoons,
Mhm.
and because they're 2D characters, and the Doctor rather
Mhm.
comically looks into camera and says, "I'm 2D, so I have like a 2D brain."
Yeah, yeah,
um, and that in order to 3D themselves, they have to
yeah.
allow themselves more emotional depth in order to grow. And it's another way to get some exposition over to Belinda about who the Doctor is, and also Belinda to the Doctor about how she's actually feeling about him in this moment. Um,
Yeah.
so Belinda gets to know that we're doing it again, folks. I'm the last of the Time Lords. We're here again. It's
Mhm.
2008, baby.
Yep.
We're back.
Yep.
um, and yeah, so yeah, how did you feel about them being animated? Firstly, like, how did you feel about their animated segment, and how
Mhm.
they slowly popped into their 3D selves?
Yeah, I think, like, it was kind of hinted that it was going to happen. Even the cartoon style was very much the same cartoon style as
Hmm.
Scooby-Doo characters. I think, like, even Belinda there in that moment is just like, "You live a terrifying life," you know?
Yeah.
Which I think is really important because I think that's gonna hold be the thing that kind of, like, creates depth to the Doctor this season, and I'm happy that they kept true to that with Belinda,
Hmm.
like, going through that moment. So I didn't mind it.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
was it a little bit on the nose? Yes.
Yes.
But was it Space Babies? No.
Again, it wasn't Space Babies. I
It
feel
wasn't Space Babies, so I think this is a tongue in cheek that can pass
yeah, it's
for a show
and also
that's family oriented.
it feels like it fits within the context of what is going on with Lux and what Lux's power set is.
Yeah.
Um, so I had no issue with this. I thought it's just a very unique way for a villain to attack people. Like, I'm going to turn you into film cells or animate you, and obviously it plays into the fourth wall breaking. But it feels like it makes sense here by the very nature of it
Mhm.
being a piece of film that they're stuck inside. So it
Yep.
actively makes sense. Now, I thought more of the episode would have them animated. Honestly, when we saw the trailer, I thought we were going to
Mhm.
have like an actual segment like more one scene of them being
Yeah.
an animation, and I feel like now seeing it, I'm kind of happy with it just being a small fight. I think they
Mhm.
played it just long enough to be unique and interesting, and not too long that
Yep.
it got like, okay, are we still are we still going with this?
Yeah.
I think it was timed just right, just on the point of the Doctor revealing that he's the last of his kind, and how that
Mhm.
might shape Belinda's opinion of him.
Mhm.
Do you? Again, I feel like one of my things I liked about this episode is Belinda's slowly changing of heart about who he is. To me, it felt like she took that information and recognized like something about him that she didn't know, and gained some sympathy for him, but still kind of a little bit on the, well, I still want to get home, and you're this
Yep.
mad alien who runs into danger. I can
Yep.
empathize with you a little bit more now. I feel like I'm a little bit more connected to you, but I still have my like, I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
which I like. I like that it maintains that whilst also building a trust towards them, so Belinda actually likes him, opposed to like being trapped with a person who she hates and they're just bickering all the time. I prefer the fact that there is like a bonding happening, but
Yep.
also maintaining that the momentum of her wanting to go home. We then get a bit of a segment where Lux tries to trick them into thinking they've escaped. I'm going to be honest, I think I don't know. It's just a moment to show that the Doctor's smarter than Lux, because Lux gets the
Mhm.
continuity wrong, and I guess fourth wall breaking, they got the continuity wrong,
Yeah.
ha ha ha. And
Mhm.
that makes me think: are they going to purposely get continuity wrong in the show because weird things are happening and it messes with my brain? I don't know what to trust anymore. And I think we said
Yeah.
this last year. I'm worried that Russell will use this as a slight scapegoat to do weird little
Yep.
things where he doesn't have to give satisfying conclusions to things because we're
Yep.
breaking the fourth wall.
Mhm. Mhm.
um, but yeah, it's just a little scene where it gets to show that the Doctor's smarter than Lux. Calling out the
Mhm.
police officer's uniform, and I was instantly sus. The way that the lady came in, I was like, that's not the same lady from earlier. Like, the moment she started
Yeah, yeah,
talking,
yeah.
I was like, no, no, not that sweet lady from the start. She would never.
Going back to the diner scene and the doctor, like, holding her hand, that
Hmm.
was a really, really, really big deal,
Yeah,
especially in those times,
yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah,
So, like, someone being willing to do that, and then just kind of the other version that we see, like, that was very, I think, like, very telling.
yeah.
Like, just, like, small things like that make a lot of difference.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We then come to the moment that I feel, I feel like people are going to be going around in circles for possibly years. I
Mhm.
see this being,
Mhm.
which is hilarious in the fact that it's about fans being fans, and fans are going to
Yep.
talk about this moment and argue about this moment forever, which is hilarious. It's
Yep.
meta within meta within meta at this point. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, the Doctor and Belinda decide the only way out is they have to break through the film. They have to get out of the film and
Mhm.
find themselves popping out of a TV into a room of Doctor Who fans watching the show. And they're in a unit jumper, a Telos t-shirt, and never in my a million years of not being alive did I think I would see someone wearing a Telos t-shirt in an episode of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And then they have a nice cup of tea. They're talking about the plot. They've all said,
Mhm.
"Hey, you've already said how you're getting out of this." He mentioned it earlier in the episode. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and I will say, I saw a few, because I watched this right when I got back from work. I got my cold pizza out
Yeah.
out of the fridge, and I was like, "I need to watch this."
Yeah.
So I watched it, and then I saw a couple of little reactions. I wanted to try and keep away from it
Yeah.
as much as possible, but I did see a couple people sort
Mm.
of saying they either didn't get the scene or
Mhm.
they loved it. I don't know. I didn't mind it personally. I didn't mind this whole scene too much because again, it felt real to what Lux's power set is. And
Mhm.
it's one of those times where you go, as a writer, I would imagine, well, this is the only time I can really do this. in this way.
Mhm.
So why not do it? And it's tricky. It's a tricky thing to do because
Mhm.
you're holding up a mirror to your own audience, especially like the dedicated audience in particular. This isn't like the casual audience.
Yeah.
They're holding up a mirror to the
Yep.
actual audience. I can see some people being like, "That's not what we're like. We're not these dweebs." and
Mhm.
and I mean, we have a podcast, so we have to just own up to the fact that
No, we are these
we
dweebs.
are
All of
these
us
dweebs.
are these dweebs. I've never like, there's a lot of fandoms. I think Doctor Who is one of the most nuanced that I feel like I battle with most of the time.
Yes, for sure,
I
one
mean, we
hundred
are those
percent.
dweebs.
Mhm.
We are.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I did find it funny, like obviously the doctor, the doctor asking what their favorite episode is, and they all say Blink.
Oh my god, yep.
Um,
Yeah, which
and
is a Muppet. A Muppet
a Muppet.
piece?
It's a Muppet.
A Muppet
It's a Muppet
Muppet. Oh,
piece.
stop it. Stop it.
Stephen Moffat, yes, Stephen Moffat. Stephen. Oh my, I'm saying it now.
Yeah, which I
Stephen
thought
Moffat.
was really funny because we were all saying last season, we're like, "Mm,
Oh yeah,
she gave us
the
her
Stephen
boy
Moffat
back."
episodes are really good, huh? But
Yeah.
also, I found it funny that
Uh,
I know Stephen Moffat has said this as well, that he doesn't understand why fans love Blink so much because there's so
yeah,
little Doctor in it.
yeah,
And I did think it works on two levels where the Doctor's like talking about, hey, what about my episodes? What about the ones I'm in? Did
yeah,
you not like
yeah,
these ones? And also on the level of, I was barely in that story. Why why is that all
yeah,
your favorite episode?
yep.
And hot take, I kind of agree. I like Blink. I think it's a fun, short horror movie in a 45 minutes, but I kind of
Yeah,
agree in the sense of it's not one of my favorites purely and simply because the Doctor's barely in it.
yep,
That's my another hot take for you today, I guess. I did like how it accumulated to a point where they had figured out what needs to be done because
yeah,
they watched the Doctor and they've learnt from the Doctor.
mhm,
So they, because of that, are also smarter than Lux and are
yeah,
able to get one over on Lux. And
mhm,
it was an oddly emotional scene with them
mhm,
sort of realizing that they aren't real and
yep,
how the Doctor responds to that. And again, a weird meta fourth wall breaking thing of
yeah,
of almost like the Doctor recognizing the I'm a TV character who has fans, and also
yeah,
like it's that very weird meta fourth wall breaky thing
mhm,
of the show recognizing that and the character recognizing that in a weird roundabout
yeah,
kind of way. Yeah,
yeah.
how do you feel about the whole thing? How the whole thing?
Yeah, I feel like I was kind of concerned as to where it was going,
Mm-hmm.
but I think coming from the, like I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna say it very, very quickly and very shortly. It was kind of like those 2 supernatural episodes combined in
Mm-hmm.
one. The Scooby-Doo one
Mm-hmm.
and the one where they're on set seeing their actual lives.
Yes. Yeah.
In its own way, it's not exactly copy and cut, but it was like 2 of those concepts kind of smashed together in its own way a little
Mm-hmm.
bit, which I thought was really interesting of, like, they recognize that they're characters of these people. There's Supernatural does it a lot more in many other side stories as well. I was kind of nervous of like, "Oh, are we just, like, copying and pasting a little bit of what we've seen work?"
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like Russell T Davies really just wants to be, like, revolutionary and have all of these own concepts,
Mm-hmm.
essentially, and I'm like, "I don't none of these are really own your own concepts, though." Which is kind of like the rinse and repeat of the industry in general. But I think it was well done. I think, like, obviously you get like, there's so many moments in this where I feel like they're making Belinda intentionally slow to catch up.
A
Like,
little
even
bit.
Belinda's,
I
like,
see what you mean.
seeing
Yeah.
the cartoon character going up the stairs, and Belinda's like, "We got nothing to worry about, he's not coming anytime soon," then just, like, slides right under the door. And then you have Belinda in this moment where, like, Belinda's not realizing
Mm-hmm.
immediately that these people aren't real, like, kind of like I
Do
don't
you, do you think
it's a
it's
hard
an element of her not wanting for that to be the case, or and so she's sort of in denial a little bit, or do you think it's generally like she doesn't pick up on what's being put down in that moment.
Oh, I think it's kind of hard to say. I feel like they just made it more intentional this episode. So I don't
Mm,
know if it's specifically for the cause of this episode or if that's going to continue on in Belinda's general characteristics.
yeah.
I think it was kind of more so playing into like your Fred concepts. But I think a lot of like it could be either or. I think obviously Belinda is just like, what is even fucking happening, right? Like,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just want to go home. This entire episode, so everything that's happening, you're probably gonna be like, is this actually a fever dream?
Mm,
Like, have I had a concussion? I've actually passed out somewhere type of vibe to Belinda a little bit. But it was just something I had noticed is like they are making, which is a much more like normal human response, right? More complexity of like the doctors ahead of them.
mm-hmm.
These people are ahead of them of the Lux because they're while they are Lux's creation, like they're also taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
Not advantage, if that's not the right word, but even say like while we are just kind of a toy in this, I've at least met my 2 best friends
Mm-hmm.
throughout this process. So even though we are these things and we understand the concepts that we are,
Mm-hmm.
like, it doesn't mean that we're not gonna see the good in it a little bit. That's well done and quick enough, and
Yeah, that's the key. That's the key. It's just like
good
the
job.
animated bit. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
long enough. It doesn't overstay its welcome. they
Nope.
they
Yep.
just hang on it long enough. And again, like I was saying earlier, this was another moment where Belinda is seeing the Doctor through someone else's eyes, who has a
Mhm.
better understanding of who he is, and
Yep.
she's again starts to see the value in him, and plus seeing his reaction to what's going on, like seeing
Yep.
that he cares for these people who technically aren't real.
Yep.
They're not real people, and yet he still cares and wishes he could do something for them.
Yeah.
Which is I think is an important, because it goes in with her, like what she was doing in the first episode, where she was like, this fucking guy, I'm helping these people who I don't even know, and he's just sitting over there
Yeah.
pushing buttons. And
Yeah, yeah.
here she's starting to see that, oh no, he does care about people. He does care about
Mhm.
these adventures. He might be, funny enough, a little alien about his
Yep.
approach to the
Yeah.
situation, but he does genuinely actually care about this stuff, and he's seeking
Mhm.
to do good where he goes. It's not just all for the thrill of it, which at the beginning of this episode she was a bit like, oh, you're just doing this for the kicks and the thrill. You want to go investigate the haunted cinema because it's fun.
Yeah.
But over the course of the episode, she starts to see it's a little deeper than that for him. He
Mhm.
wants to inspire hope in people. He wants to actually help people. But yeah, so the fans, they realize what's going on and voluntarily um, take themselves out the equation to and give them the hint of the that film is flammable. Um,
Yep.
and the Doctor takes advantage of that to make their escape, where they stop the film, hold it in place so it burns, so they can break out. Also, I
Mhm.
will, just as it's playing in front of me right now, I will,
Mhm.
if you're listening to the audio version, you won't know, but their backdrop for their set for the fan scene is remarkably similar to my own to my own backdrop, which is why I have to be like, nope,
Yep.
I get it. It's,
Yep.
all
Yeah.
right, I'm right there. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The Doctor burns his hand, and apparently because he bi-generated, he has some extra regeneration energy
Oh,
stored up just for this moment.
yep.
He says, he
Yep.
specifically says, I was saving it for this moment. So once again, I'm like, is this a knowing fourth wall kind of moment, or and earlier on in the episode he says cut. He's like, you keep shouting cut to Mr. Ringading, and then he's like, who am I
Yeah.
saying cut to?
Oh my goodness. Yep.
So that was another little weird moment. It's
Mm,
messing with my brain, Tash. It's messing with my brain,
mm,
all of this.
mm,
I don't know
mhm.
how I feel about it. More importantly, I don't know how I feel about it. And then, as we say, the Mr. Ringading Lux. Man, that's easy to get those two mixed up. Lux.
Huh? Don't though. Jeez.
um, Lux reveals that, hey, you're a Time Lord. I can use your light, your Time Lord energy,
Yep.
to rebuild myself into an actual physical form. Because he reveals, hey, I never go outside. That's what I never
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Because he can't exist outside, or it would drown him effectively. Um,
Mhm.
and we get another. It's kind of a little callback to Maestro with the music notes um,
Mhm.
hanging up Ruby, where Lux uses the film reel to hang up the Doctor and suck out
Mhm.
his light. And is a good moment for Belinda and Doctor's relationship where the Doctor's like, "Well, I'm
Mhm.
stuck. I can't do anything, but I
Yeah,
trust you to know what to do because
yeah.
um and which he does. And so we get to the whole set piece with her. And indeed, the projection is saying, "You know what? No, I got this. Okay, I kept these people stuck for as long as I did, so I know
Mhm.
what needs to be done." Um,
Mhm.
and they blow up the building. Uh,
Yeah, I think it was, like, even though the doctor is saying, like, "You have to trust me because I
hmm
know what time of day it is,"
hmm
and, like, but in reality, it's him putting the trust in her, and I
yeah,
think it's kind of building on that trust together of, like, you're not gonna always get a clear-cut answer from the doctor, but there's gonna be hints at how what you can do, and you're gonna have to kind of recall onto that, and you can see Belinda then quickly picks up, "Oh, he meant it's daylight,"
hmm
and goes to do this. I think, especially with the projectionist, how she's like, "Give me the matches," and then you can kind of see there's a little bit of, like, that hesitancy and panic, and then, you see his wife, which is seemingly why he's keeping all of this going,
hmm
is like, come on, you know what to do, like, remind me," type of thing. I think it was a really good way of, like, kinda closing the loop on there. So, yeah. No, I enjoyed it.
yeah. The Yeah, like you say, it's almost like the projectionist is like, I got this extra time with my wife,
Yeah,
and now I have to basically face the consequences of that extra time a little bit. And
yeah.
also, as we have to mention, as Mr. Ringerding gains the power and he becomes like a Pixar animation to begin with,
Mhm.
um, well, he actually turns into, like, I don't know, is it voxels? Is that the correct term? Whatever it is first, and then he eventually becomes like a weird Pixar version of himself, and then he becomes like a giant, like I say, Pennywise, full on creep. I was like, there are going to be kids who have nightmares about this, and you know what? Bravo, bravo, fucking over making him look creepy as shit, and his eyes
Yeah.
bulging and crossing,
Mhm.
and like one
Yeah.
of the things I was going to say in my pinned point that I didn't say today was that why is Doctor Who just not scary anymore? Why do they not try to be like weird and scary? And then this episode comes along, it's
Mhm.
like, I got you, buddy. I'm gonna give you the creepy,
Yeah.
scary goober and
Mhm.
really lean into it. And I was thankful for that. And yeah, I just thought it was really good. But you could also tell, hey, there's that money right there. We can do a full
Mhm.
3D animated animated
Yeah.
character. There was no way in hell they could do one that looked that good a couple years ago. Not a chance would they be able to do that. And I
Mhm.
guess I don't know. I do wonder. I mean, I guess the visual effects were all done by the same people who do all of the visual effects. So I just wonder if they had any correspondence with Disney animating teams at all
Mhm.
on how to do this. I guess we'll never actually know the answer to that, but it does kind of beg the question a little bit. Not that saying that the people who do the effects for Doctor Who aren't talented. I'm sure they are. They know what they're doing,
Mhm.
but um, I don't know if 3D character animation is something that they would normally do. So
Mhm.
just an interesting thing to think about. Cinema blows up, and the sunlight bursts in, and Lux becomes more his normal state, but then becomes translucent and
Mhm.
just grows and grows majestically, floating above the earth, and
Mhm.
eventually just becoming part of the entire universe is how big he gets.
Yep.
And as Belinda comments, he's actually got
Yeah.
he's everywhere.
Yep.
And my initial response to that was, I wonder if that's going to cause any issues in the future.
Yeah.
I did one of the
Yeah, I
other.
think that was an unsatisfactory ending to the movie, I'm not
Yes,
gonna lie.
this is what I
Yeah.
was going to say. I did see a
Oh,
few people saying that I felt the ending was kind of abrupt and kind of just
mhm.
happened. So I was interested to get your take on how you feel about how he's dispersed.
Yeah, I mean, I just, like, the ending wasn't the best for me. I don't think it takes away the same concept that the whole sing along song with the Beatles episode did.
hmm
But it's very just like Belinda again, it's like, well, now he's like intangible,
hmm
like you just released this big bad thing into the universe, and the doctor's
hmm
like, "Amen." As fucking if that would be the doctor's response in that I don't know if we really talked about this, but, like, is it that Lux exists now because of the whole, like, being able to cross over with the Salt thing? Is that why
Hmm.
the Lux here is all came back to
Yeah, I
that?
assume. Well, we'll talk a little bit about this in our theory
Yeah,
crafting in a bit, but
yeah,
I guess it is connected to all of that in some way. Yeah,
yeah, I
my
don't
initial reaction to him
know.
becoming essentially as big as the universe itself, I was like, surely that would have some kind of repercussion.
Mhm,
I know he's like translucent and can't interact with anything, but
yep,
some kind of like influence would exist there in some way. You would think, or
mhm,
um, and I practically speaking, I get it. Like the reason they have that very quick ending for him is just a
mhm,
quick hand way to get rid of him. Um, is this battle with the 45-minute runtime? It honestly is like
mhm,
you either have a very quick resolution so you can let
mhm,
the rest of the story breathe and have nice moments and all that, or you have a really pacey, quick story so then you can have some sort
mhm,
of emotional beat at the end. Seems to be the model for how you operate a 45-minute Doctor Who episode, and I think both have issues, and why I again will hit the drum of just
yeah,
be an hour long. Like surely, in this day and age,
yep,
we can do 60-minute episodes. Like, why are
yep,
we still conforming to this? I mean, I know the original reason Russell pitched it as a 45-minute episode in 2005 was because of airing it in America, because
mhm,
he was like, with 45 minutes, we can then plan for ad breaks in
mhm,
America. And that was this whole thing. But now we're living in this time where most of America is watching it via streaming. So that isn't
yep,
an issue anymore. And
nope,
most people in the UK are watching it on iPlayer. They're not. I mean, even if they're watching it on BBC One, there are no adverts. So
mhm,
it's like just make them 60 minutes longer. Like just have
yeah,
that extra 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So then you can have a satisfying ending. You can have the scenes breathe, and you can have the cake and eat it.
yeah,
Why are we
yeah,
still doing this? Why are we still? I don't know. I
yep,
don't know who makes these choices and why they make them. I don't know. The ending doesn't offend me quite as much in terms of how quickly it's
mhm,
wrapped up. I
mhm,
understand why some people don't gel with it because of how quick it is.
mhm,
But in this particular instance, I was like, you know what? I'm okay. I got to have some good scenes where things breathed and there was some
yeah,
creepy tension building. And if we didn't have that rushed ending, I guess we wouldn't have got to have as much of that. I'm definitely going to knock a point off of the episode for having a rushed ending for sure. But as a viewing
mhm,
experience, it didn't jolt me out of it as such. We end on Mrs. Flood popping up at the end, saying,
mhm,
"Hey, you want a show? Watch this one." Mind you, it's only running till the 24th of May, limited run only. Which all Doctor Who fans
mhm,
go, "Oh God, is this the actual
yeah,
end?
yep,
Are you trying to tell us
yep.
something? I swear to God." Even though
Yep,
obviously that's the penultimate episode, it's not the finale
yep.
air date, but still, yeah. How did you feel about Mrs. Flood appearance here? Because it's the most overt. Mrs. Flood can travel around wherever the frick she wants to.
What she wants,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Which was sort of signposted in the first episode, being that she's now living next to Belinda somehow.
Yep,
So
mhm,
it is really bizarre, like Mrs. Flood, how she was introduced seemingly with no kind of weird specialness about her whatsoever
mhm,
originally, and now it's
mhm.
just full tilt. Nah, she weird.
Yep,
she's got weirdness about her.
I'm holding on to my unhinged theory
Yeah.
internally.
Okay. Okay. Well, stay tuned to this podcast, and one day you might learn what Tash's unhinged theory about Mrs. Flood
I'll
is.
say it it's unhinged for a reason, right?
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
it is completely unhinged for a
Hmm.
reason, but
Um,
yeah, the amount of fourth wall breaking happening and the Bridgerton episode is doing things to my brain.
I'm slightly concerned because there's another thread that was started with the Star Beast, which hasn't been called back to whatsoever ever since. Well,
Mhm,
actually, it's been alluded to a little bit. Like Rogue mentioned
mhm,
it a little bit as well. I think it got mentioned somewhere else as well. But the boss We still have
Mhm.
no idea who that is or any indicator as to who that is. And that started before the Salt, before the Toy Maker. So that's something
Mhm.
that is pre-existing to all of this.
Mhm.
This is pre-existing to pantheons. I assume it's nothing to do with Mrs. Flood, because I assume Mrs. Flood is something linked into the Salt and the building blocks of reality
Mhm.
changing because of that. So there's this whole other thing that we may never learn about if the show goes on hiatus. We we may never see what the hell that was about.
Yep.
Amazing,
Which would be very fitting for the experience.
right? For sure. Yeah, something
Yeah.
unsatisfactory and unresolved. That's Doctor Who.
Yep.
That is in some way, shape, or form. I guess also before we give our scores and our final thoughts, we do
Mhm.
get to see that the fans still exist in some way, shape, or form as the credits roll. Um, I personally think that wasn't needed. Um, I feel like, speaking of having cake and eating it, I think
Yeah.
that was a bit of Russell having his cake and eating it. Who knows? It may come to make sense in some way with whatever the bigger picture is that's going on. It kind of tarnishes their sacrifice a little bit and the importance of their self awareness and the
Yep.
emotion of the scene when it happened by them just being there and doing exactly what we're going to do is give the episode a score.
Yep.
I feel so attacked. God damn it.
Yeah.
But yeah, how did you feel about just seeing them pop up again at the end?
Yeah, I feel like I was just like, "Just let it go," kind of mentality of
Mm-hmm.
seemingly yeah, I'm just letting it go. I'm
Yeah,
letting it go, it
fair.
happened. I'm more caught up on the doctor saying amen than I am about them.
Yeah, yeah, fair. No, I get you. Like
Well,
it's
yet
a very
again,
throwaway thing.
Russell T Davies, this isn't a first time a really popular franchise has brought in gods of a sort and made fun of their own fan base of a sort and mixed them together. I'm just gonna say that,
Yeah.
but yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess it's the old thing of there's only 7 stories in the world, and it's about how you tell them. That whole
Yeah.
that whole thing. Quickly was going to mention.
I filled my eyes on Russell T Davies and his original ideas. Like,
You're like Belinda
don't
to
buy it.
Russell T Davis right now. I don't know about you, Russell.
I don't buy it. I just don't buy it.
um, I was going to quickly mention again. We got Series 5 soundtrack during the fan scene.
Mhm.
Sad Man on a Box, I believe, is the track that they use, which is during the finale of Series 5, where the 11th Doctor is deciding to remove himself from reality in order to
Mhm.
save it. Which, again, could be just a meta fourth wall break moment where the music
Yep.
corresponds thematically with the fans deciding to step out of existence so the Doctor and Belinda could survive, which is essentially the same thing that was happening with the 11th Doctor in that moment. And that's
Yep.
why you play that music. And obviously, they mentioned
Mhm.
that Mr. Ringerding has his own music soundtrack that follows him around. So it could just be a fun meta gag to do with that. Or it could have bigger meaning. We don't know. Nobody knows. So yeah, I guess closing thoughts, Tash. What are your closing thoughts on Lux?
I think it was well done.
Mm-hmm.
My skepticism about the other shoe getting ready to drop type of situation right now, because I'm like, if you get my hopes up and
Mm-hmm.
then absolutely just destroy him again, I'm gonna be heartbroken.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
in
Especially
most
since
of
this
the way of
might be
putting that.
all we get for a while.
Yeah,
Potentially.
I have a fear,
Yes.
and I think it's partly due to the supernatural stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where I'm scared that we're gonna get to the level of where, without doing too much spoilers for people who have never watched Supernatural, getting lost in this concept of gods and not really knowing how to handle it fully and just
Mm-hmm.
getting too insanely fucking meta.
Yes.
We love a little bit of cheeky meta. I don't think it's there yet, but I do have this kind of fear. And part of it is like, is Russell T Davies kind of poking at the American crowd? Rightfully so. It's Doctor Who, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I have some sort of just fear of that. I don't know if it's even more so recently in my mind just because of like the callbacks that happened this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like you could like this would be another one that I would rewatch.
Yeah. Yeah.
for sure.
Uh,
Loving Belinda, and I'm loving Shooty
yeah.
getting this chance to show this side.
I guess, well, again, we have to mention it
Yeah,
on Doctor Crywatch. Um, I
I
think
did see.
that the only cry. I think it was just the fan scene that
Yep,
any
yeah.
crying took place in this one. But again, I thought that was rather. It was kind of lovely in a weird meta way because
Mhm,
it's again, like I was saying earlier, just the Doctor recognizing, like, I have fans and they put value in what I do and
mhm,
what I represent, and so it kind of worked again. It didn't, again, just like last week, this time around didn't bother me as much as it did with the previous
mhm.
series. There
Yeah.
was actually a news story about Russell talking about people's response to how much he cries, and Russell's response to that was, you just don't tell an actor not to cry. If an actor's crying,
Yeah.
you just let them do it. I sort of do go a bit like, I get what you mean, because it's kind of magical to see an actor put on a performance like that where they really just
Mhm,
connect in that way. But I think sometimes you do have to step in and say, okay, that's great. It's a wonderful performance. I just don't necessarily know if that's what this scene needs. So I don't completely subscribe to his, like, you don't tell an actor not to cry, because sometimes you need to tell an actor, okay, great, but that's, I don't think that's what this needs right now. just
Yeah.
sometimes. Lux, though, I enjoyed it more than last week, I will say that.
Mhm,
um I liked that it was more creepy and had that nice build up at the start. The meta stuff, although breaking my brain, and I have concerns about the bigger picture part of it and where it might
mhm.
go. In terms of just confining it to this one story, it worked for me just because of the nature of the villain and all of that stuff. Like I say, well paced. Loved Belinda still. Really enjoying Belinda and the Doctor's relationship. Um, Shooty again, feeling much more recognizably the Doctor to me again this week. The bow tie
Mhm.
might have helped because, costuming is apparently very important to me as I'm discovering on this
Yeah.
journey.
We did get a little bit of the fez as well, so I
There
guess
was a
kind
bit of
of
Fez in
played
there.
hand in hand with the fez. Yeah, yeah.
um, but yeah, overall, I did really like this one, and like you say, I feel like this is a story that I posted last week where I'm like, oh, just watch this as if it was on, but I don't think I'd actively seek it out. I feel like this
Yeah.
is one where I would actively, you know what, I wouldn't mind watching that again. I would actively go, I'll watch Lux because that's a good
Mhm.
story. I'll watch that one. So score wise, I think I land on, just because of that ending, the ending being a little bit rushed and too pacey and very abrupt. Yeah, I think I'll go with a 7.5.
Oh, nice score.
I stole it.
Ooh, ooh, yeah.
I stole it with, I am telepathic apparently.
No, I think the same. It would have been an 8 minus the
hmm
ending for
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
Yeah, I think 7.5.
yeah. Again, to reiterate our
It's
score
a
scale.
standalone story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to reiterate our score scaling. 0, get in the bin. 10, masterpiece. 5, good. 5 is good. It is solid. I'm happy
Mhm.
with this. Anything above that is, hey, you did some extra things that I'm happy you did, and it worked for me. Anything below that is like, oof, oof, oof. Just different level of oofs. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, 7.5. Look at that. Look at us coming to a
Yeah.
consensus. Hello, if I've edited this a bit further ahead of our exit, it's because I very rushedly put out a post saying we're talking about the episode. If anyone if
Yes,
anyone
yes,
wants
yes.
to give us some opinions, because the podcast has a Twitter, has a Blue Sky. We both have a Discord. There will be links in the YouTube video below, and there's a link to the Blue Sky on the Spotify About Me thing as well. So if you do want to get in
Ooh.
touch and give us your opinions, you can do so. Go to those places. We have one on Blue Sky. Uh, on Blue Sky,
Oh,
we've got
there you go.
Tom says, I do wish these meta episodes of shows were nice to the fans who have represented them more positively, or not as losers or sad or depressed. So that was an interesting thing that we did talk about, that some people
Mhm.
might not like the representation of the fans
Yep,
in this. It is interesting. I wasn't personally offended by the representation because I could see an element of myself, not fully, like they're not completely
yeah.
like me, but I could see parts of myself
Mhm.
within them. But I think they pulled this one off by they're not real, and they think they're going to die reveal. I mean, we
Mhm.
all know it's going to be an insanely divisive. We did say that as well.
Yep.
the Marmite of this situation. I think the weakest bit of the episode for me was the conversation on film where they're trying to work out how to get out. Felt a bit stilted, artificial, and people are going to be angry about him meeting the fans and how they were presented. I didn't feel like that scene was particularly stilted with them escaping. I felt like it came to a conclusion, but it is. I think it is interesting that is the scene that people that I've seen are talking about
Yeah.
the most, that they've latched onto for various different reasons. Like, I feel like both
Mhm.
of us are on the side of we could see elements of ourselves, as I point again to my backdrop being remarkably similar to the episode's backdrop. But
Yeah.
I would emphasize, and I'm not going to tell anyone that they're wrong about what their interpretation of the scene is, but I would
Yeah.
emphasize that by the end of the scene, it's very telling that even if they are fans, even if they are a bit dweeby and overexcitable,
Yeah.
and they do
Yeah.
say, I mean, even the part where they say, oh no, I know we're annoying. I know we've been told it before. I know. I could fully yep, been there. I completely
Yep.
understand that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I will stress that I think ultimately the point of that scene is that they are smart enough and self-aware enough because they are fans of the show that
Yeah.
that's kind of the point, that they are people who think. And it was kind of nice to see Russell sort of having that element of, because at the end of the episode they're quite critical of the episode, and it's kind of nice for Russell to to be kind of aware of that a little bit, but not in a
Yeah.
not so much in a way of how dare you fans be critical of my stuff, because
Yeah.
guess what, Russell is also a fan, and I'm sure there are episodes within Doctor Who's history where he's been a bit like, I don't know about that one, so he gets it.
Mhm.
He completely
Mhm.
gets it. But no, I think
Allegedly.
but no, thank you, Tom, for replying
Yeah.
to the Blue Sky thing. And like I say, if anyone else wants to get in touch, make sure you're following Blue Sky Twitter. Um, we both have Discords with the podcast in channels in there as well.
I think it is fair too. Like we obviously have to look at this through that, like in terms of Tom being like it should be kind of nicer to the fans, and I
Mm-hmm.
can get that, and I think this will be divisive.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently the cat being divisive, and I stand firmly in my belief that that cat was unnecessary. I think for us, like specifically as we are the ones that are kind of diving into this and doing the podcast and being super critical of everything, like it would be wrong for us to look at that and be like, no, that's not us, right? Like we
Mm.
are the people that are quite literally spending hours of our time on
Mm-hmm.
this instead of just consuming it and living happy with it. So I
Yes.
think like our perspective on that is like we understand how we fit into that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas maybe like a watcher who just wants to casually watch is probably like,
Hey, I'm not
that's
like
not
that.
what
Yeah.
I'm like.
Right.
I
Exactly.
just enjoy the content, you know? Like
Yes. For sure.
so yeah, there's kind of different dynamics to the fandom where I could see that that totally makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it would just be too dismissive of us to be like, we're not like that when quite
Yeah.
literally what are
It would seem
what we're
disingenuous
doing.
for
Yeah,
for
yeah.
us to be like, nah, we ain't
Not
like that.
everybody's doing the things that we're doing with with this content, you know? So I think it's fair and
Yeah.
valid.
Quickly then, before wrapping up,
Yep.
next time trailer we've got. I think the episode is called "The Well."
Yeah.
Is the title of the next episode, and as I said last week, this, without getting into any kind of potential spoiler or giving anything away, I think this next episode is a sequel to a David Tennant story. If rumors are to be believed, a very Doctor focused story where this one looks like it's taking whatever that idea is without giving anything away and expanding it, making it a bit bigger. The main thing I get from that trailer is that, hey, I'm getting my wish again. We're getting another scary episode. We're getting another spooky environment. Things are going wrong. There's a bunch of cannon fodder, it looks like, because we've got a bunch of people with some guns who are probably going to get offed in some way, uh, which could be good or bad. We'll see. My only concern going into that, knowing the story that it's sequelizing, is if hopefully Russell doesn't forget what made that original story as good and effective as it was the first time round. And trying to do that on a bigger scale where they're seemingly got more sets, more environments, more spaces that they're moving through. So we'll see. I'm cautiously excited purely because it looks like it's going to be another spooky, scary one. It's nice, a nice feeling to be somewhat like, oh, it might be pretty good next week. I'm looking forward to it. We've had 2 pretty solid episodes in a row, and the next one also looks good. So hopefully, fingers crossed.
Gonna be so for real. Give me 30 seconds.
30
'Cause I
seconds.
didn't get to see it. I didn't get to see it.
We're the most up-to-date and present podcast where both hosts have seen the trailer. I mean, all we've got to go on is that Russell has said that it's a sequel to a story, and then there are some leaks that have happened that may have
Yeah.
confirmed what story it might have been. Sorry, there may have been a slight edit here. Tash is trying to deduce if she can figure out what episode it might be sequelizing. You don't have to say anything. You can just be surprised. You can just go into it completely surprised and have that outlook on it. Because I kind of wish I hadn't seen the stuff, so I could have been surprised by what they were going to do. It'll be, yeah, we'll see. We'll get your surprised reaction review next time.
Still does give me Satan's Pit vibes too, though.
I mean, yeah, the trailer, there's a big hole in the ground, and I watched the Satan Pit the other week, and I was like, God damn, this story's still very good. That's a solid Doctor Who right there, the Satan Pit. The goddamn,
Yeah.
what happened?
Yeah.
So I said slightly jokingly. But yeah, in terms of theory crafting is the season overall, I know Tash has the unhinged secret theory about Mrs. Flood in particular. There's been an idea that I've kind of had rattling around my head, and it kind of plays into the Toymaker a little bit. And I've seen a couple of other people say stuff on the same lines. There's an idea, because we talked about this last year on the podcast, I'm fairly sure, that there were talks about, and we kind of got it in this episode, that what if they're trapped in a TV show? We talked about this last year because one of the promos for the Legend of Ruby Sunday was a bunch of TV screens. And that seemed to start the wheel on that turning. But that turned out not to be the case that time around. But a lot of people have mentioned this as well, is that the bigger picture thing that might be happening with the bleeding of realities, with the Toymaker and all of that stuff, the fourth wall breaking, is that maybe our universe is merging with, or the Doctor Who universe as we know it is merging with the land of fiction, which is something from the second Doctor era, which was a very contained thing, but it was like the Doctor and they landed in this other place, and it turned out to be the land of fiction, and it was being written, and it had like a bunch of written books that came to life and stuff. And is this Russell doing the land of fiction 2.0, but it's drawing from television rather than books? And is Mrs. Flood the one controlling that and shaping that, and hence why she's pushing Belinda and the Doctor together, and all the fourth wall breaks because, TV and all of that stuff. I can kind of see it. It's very on point for Russell to have like a classic series thing that he's reimagined as the finale. That's like his traditional thing that he normally does. I don't know what that says about Mrs. Flood. I don't know if that gives an identity to Mrs. Flood, really. Mrs. Flood could just be fitting into it in a different way, and the land of fiction thing could just be what's made the universe more malleable. But there's been no leaks about this. This is no rumors. This is purely speculation based on what we're seeing. And I did kind of think about it a little bit, and I was like, I don't know. We'll see. I guess that's one way of explaining it. My only concern with that, and if it is indeed, like the rumors suggest, that if it is indeed Shooty's last episode this season, it would. I don't know how I feel about his entire era operating within the land of fiction. I don't know how, if that turns out to be the case. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's still meant to be our universe, and it's like they're like bleeding together. If that is the case,
Yeah.
But still, I don't know. I'm not putting my hat on it. I'm not saying that's actually what's happening. It is a thing that could be the case, and it kind of makes sense out of why there's fourth wall breaking and etc. etc. Obviously, Tash is choosing to withhold her unhinged theory. But I'm kind of staying away from the bigger theory. That's just one that I kind of like, okay, I can sort of see it. I can see how the puzzle pieces line up here, kind of situation. But yeah, I'm kind of hoping it's something new. If I'm being completely honest, I'm kind of hoping it's a new idea that he's had and is running with. We'll see. I'm trying to keep away from the bigger picture because I feel like if I get wrapped up in the bigger picture, I'm going to be disappointed by it.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's why I have my unhinged theory.
It's true, because if it happens,
Yeah.
you'll be like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to say this for like the last 30 minutes, but
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever seen Red Dwarf? Have you ever watched it? It's a sitcom.
Yeah.
So they did a return episode in like 2010 or whatever it is, where it was them coming into our reality and finding out that they're on a TV show, and this did kind of remind me of that. And even though people aren't biggest fans of that special, for various reasons, and I can understand why, there is a really nice scene in that Red Dwarf special where Lister encounters two kids who really like him and what he represents, even though he's a slob and has curry stains on his t-shirt. Sometimes he's quite brave and he does the right thing, and they like that, and he has a whole TV channel named after him.
Yeah.
So this episode did kind of put me in mind of that a little bit, just because of that fan scene. Still, thumbs up for Lux. Good job, Russell. 2 in a row. Let's keep it up.
Khaleesi wasn't jumping around mad.
Nice. Khaleesi was settled.
Just sat in my lap the entire time. Which speaks volumes.
Yes, it does.
This is what happens when you don't kill cats.
Actually, I was going to say, the reaction to the cat thing, it's been very interesting, because since we did our review, I've gone and listened to other reviewers and various podcasts that I listen to, and the reaction to the cat death, like the UK based reviewers and everyone is like, oh, it was sad, but it's not that big of a deal. All of the American based reviewers and stuff are so offended by the cat dying, so offended. It's such a funny like difference. Like, I was a bit like, oh, that's sad, but okay, whatever. Like, it's so interesting seeing that difference, which seems to be across the board in regards to, like, yeah, it's just very interesting. What an interesting psychological study that is. Why do the American audience gets like offended by this cat death, whereas the UK people are like, oh, that's sad, but it's, we don't see the cat. Like, it's so interesting to me. Just fascinating. Anyway, here's to the rest of the series and all the living cats that Russell hasn't got to yet. Okay, and now we've probably re-edited and cut back to the end of this. Is going to be fun for me. Hey, welcome back to the end of the episode. If you're here, I've just now sliced a piece of us to the past of this episode. Hey, we're at the end of the episode. Welcome. That's it for us this week, folks. We'll be back to talk about The Well next week. As I say, hopefully we get a free for free. That would be good. Hope you enjoyed this one. Do subscribe on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube, so you get to see when the next episode goes up. Follow on the Spotify so you have it in your playlists, etc., etc. And hey, leave a like. Give us a 5-star review on Spotify. It helps our algorithm. Be nice. Leave a review there. If you didn't like this, just move along. It's fine. You don't have to do anything or say anything. It's fine. But if you do like it, please give us that nice 5 stars. There's a cat here. Does all the other podcasts have a cat? A living one, a breathing one that.
Also, I do. People who watch, I know I fidget a lot. Just reminding everyone, I am autistic, so it's quite literally impossible for me to get through this without stimming. I know it might be a little bit distracting. My cat is very attached to my side, because of being with me for 12 years. So I know it might be distracting to some. I apologize. I wish there was a different way that I could be. However, this is
Don't you
how I
apologize.
cope, and this is how Khaleesi copes too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you see babies? Who you fucking with?
I'm
How
alive.
dare
I haven't been.
how
Okay,
dare.
we're ending now.
Okay, yeah, branding.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Goodbye, 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 goodbye.